I'm Tim, welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Today we're looking at the IWC Aquatimer Deep Two, reference 3542-02, 46 millimeters in brushed and polished stainless steel. You can see this IWC Aquatimer Deep Two and purchase it on our website, watchyouwant.com. And if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watch You Want Inc. Now in 1999, IWC did something that had never been done before. They built a mechanical luxury watch, a dive watch, with a mechanical depth meter. In 2009, they revisited the concept with immense refinement in the Aquatimer Deep Two, and as of 2014, we've now seen the Deep Three join the Aquatimer lineup. So what sets the Aquatimer Deep Two apart from the past and the present depth gauge models? Well, let's get a sense first of how it fits on my wrist. 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference. This watch has incredible size and presence, and that befits its status as a true backup dive instrument. IWC advertises the Deep Two as a mechanical backup for your dive computer, so there's no undue pretense here. No one thinks that this is going to be the only life support gear that a professional diver takes down, but it does give peace of mind to have a capable, precise, and reliable analog backup instrument. And that's what IWC provides here. Now it's big. Like I said, it looks like an instrument on the wrist, but it's surprisingly manageable from an ergonomic standpoint, and this angle really tells the tale. Only 51 millimeters from lug to lug, that is the outer extremities of the lug. It actually fits well on a smaller wrist, and it's smaller than a number of watches that have smaller nominal diameter. For instance, at 46 millimeters across the round portion, it's nevertheless shorter from lug to lug than the 44 millimeter Rolex Deep Sea Sea Dweller. Moreover, because it does use an IWC 30110 automatic movement based on the very thin ETA 2892A2, the entire thickness of the case is pared down to about 15.5 millimeters, which for a 46 millimeter watch with an automatic movement, a rotating dive bezel, and a built-in depth gauge is pretty extraordinary. Because it is broad and the case back is relatively broad in its own right, slightly cupped but mostly flat, it sits nice and even, that is, flush and flat against the skin, spreads its mass nicely with no hot spots or pressure points, and because the strap, although it is conforming with no gap between the case flank and the end of the strap itself, it gets a sort of jump, a pre-curve, as it exits the lugs. So even though my wrist is small and the bend around the flank of the wrist is tight, there's really no trouble fitting this watch on a smaller wrist like mine because the ergonomics were well thought out by IWC. I would even say that as long as you like the look of an oversized sports watch and you get a good overhead look, the bird's eye right here, this watch is going to fit well on a wrist down to about 15 centimeters in circumference, and the weight is not overwhelming. A big reason for that is that IWC uses a conventional but highly versatile pin buckle rather than a full deployant. Now, unlike the Deep 3, this one is in stainless steel, so it has enough heft to satisfy, but because it does feature a rubber strap and a nice spare pin buckle, it doesn't have the mass to overwhelm or create discomfort. But the highlight of every Deep series is the mechanical depth gauge and its integration into a mechanical watch, and this creates a complex, highly technical look. It's got a distinct techno cool to it. I want to say that there's an excellent use of contrasting metallic finish, of color, and of contrast here, as well as the use of sapphire, like a Blancpain 50 Fathoms, which has that upscale, lustrous look to its rotating dive bezel born of the sapphire cap over it. This watch also features that same treatment of sapphire over calibrations. Now the difference here is that this one isn't cambered, so it doesn't jut up and over, but in my opinion that just bodes better for the durability of this particular bezel. Plus, because sapphire is almost completely scratch resistant, really only diamond tools or a hard glancing blow against a quartz rock could scratch it reliably, this is going to continue looking great for a long time to come. Now, the action of the bezel is highly satisfying. It has good detents. Because it has abundant knurling on the exterior of the bezel, you can get an extraordinary purchase on this, even when your hands are a little bit greasy or wet or gloved. Furthermore, all of the functional elements of the watch are easily legible and easily accessible. When you've got a maximum dive depth, a current dive depth, hours, minutes, seconds, a rotating bezel, and a date on a watch, chances are you could get a little bit overwhelmed if the design team doesn't do its work. And therein lies part of the beauty of the size of this watch. IWC at 46 millimeters gives itself enough geography to express all of those functions without confusion. So let's go through them one by one. Now, when I say the watch uses color effectively, I do want to talk about contrast and color in tandem. You can see the unusual, almost signal red hours, minutes, and seconds tip right here. That's something that's rarely seen on any watch, much less a dive watch, but it does a good job of distinguishing the plain time-telling functions from the technical calibrations and technical readouts of the dive gauge, the depth gauge itself, which reads down to 50 meters. So while calibrated to 60, it only reads down to 50. Beyond 50, it disengages itself so that it won't become damaged, and you can ride it right down to the watch's maximum rated depth of 120 meters without hazard to the mechanism. But for safety's sake, IWC believes that 50 is the highest calibration and the highest reading that their mechanical depth gauge should provide. Now, there is a reset trigger right here. So after your dive, you're going to see the little red tab right there next to the blue tab. The red tab is going to be permanently fixed on the deepest point of submergence from the course of your dive. You can reset it after the dive by pressing this reset key, and because atmospheric conditions will change depending on the weather and your altitude at the point of the dive, IWC features an adjustment knob right here that you can use to zero the blue index, basically your 0 point, the surface, before a dive starts. So if you watch the red and the blue indicators right there, I will zero it for my atmospheric conditions in Miami, Florida, and now I can start my dive. And I can even show you how the reset key works. For the maximum dive, I reset, and now they're in lockstep. They'll move across this scale, and as I ascend, the blue will move back and the red will stay pegged on the point of my maximum submergence depth. That's how this works. Inside, it's immensely complex. The mechanical depth gauge really is the centerpiece, the heart and soul of this watch. So IWC manages to take a known, tried and true, bulletproof and accurate ETA caliber, the 2892A2, as used in the Bond Seamasters from the 90s and early 2000s, and it uses that as the beating heart of the watch, modified as the IWC caliber 30110, 42-hour power reserve. It does feature hacking seconds for precise synchronization to a dive timer or just a known accurate reference clock. Again, 4 Hertz, so it has a modern beat rate of 28,800 vibrations per hour. It has 21 joules for smooth running, and yes, it does feature a date quickset, so you can immediately cycle to the current date if you want to use this watch for landlubber use and a date becomes necessary. Moreover, everything in the hand on the exterior feels like $1 million. Even the release for this crown cover for the adjustment knob has a little spring-loaded trigger to release it. It feels like a piece of precision machined, almost a gun fixture, like something you'd find in the bolt assembly of a rifle. And moreover, there is some additional design magic in the case itself. IWC has a beautiful engraved vintage diving helmet on the back with the Aquatimer script, but they also feature something else, a quick release system, so you can immediately swap this watch between the rubber strap, a textile strap, or a full bracelet. And if you feel like you've seen this quick release before, it's not just because the system's been evolved in the current 2014 to present Deep 3. It's because this is the tried and true system originally developed by Cartier for the Roadster when that model was launched in 2002. IWC uses that superb system under license so that you can quickly and easily swap out straps on your Deep 3 using nothing more than your fingernail. The intervention of a jeweler's tool or a screwdriver is not required. This is an extraordinary watch that packs a ton of content into a 46mm case. As big as this watch is, I have to say it still feels like a treasure chest, a sunken treasure chest of high-end haute horlogerie features. The movement inside is tough as nails. It's as accurate as a chronometer, and to be perfectly honest, it's set it and forget it reliable. It's exactly what you need when you're putting your life in the hands of high-end diving equipment. And if your computer clunks out, remember, you've got a backup in the IWC Aquatimer Deep Two. See it on our website, watchyouwant.com.